Hello and welcome. I'm Raziel. Now, one thing I've noticed, and I know my upload schedule right now is right out the window. It's because work's just so mad. It really is. Anyway, here's the thing. One thing I wanted to discuss for a long time is how Games Workshop kind of don't keep an eye on their competition. Now, I know a lot of people go, well, they're the biggest. They don't really have competition. Well, yeah, they do, and they kind of end up falling flat because people are moving away from Games Workshop. Oh, but record profits. Yeah, they had 5% rises in the last 5 years. I wonder what else happens every year for the last 5 years that has increased 5%. Seriously, it's the same thing over and over again, okay? So anyway, besides that point, they don't seem to keep an eye on their competition. And we can see this with how their games work. Now, this is a really weird thing because if you read comics, or if you like this, I know the geek culture is massive, and like myself, I like reading comics. It's enjoyable, and you will notice at the moment, especially if you're reading Marvel at the moment, you will notice they're going around down a very horror tinged route. We have seen with the Incredible Hulk, Daredevil, both have had horror in the past, but they're more outwardly horror now. Even some of Spider-Man, but going down this more horror route, and other ones which though fantasy in general, such as Doctor Strange, being even more fantastical or more fantasy based. Now he's on Asgard, actually with the Norse gods. Anyway, and then this, you can see this is clearly inspired by the more independent companies such as Valiant, Image, Dynamite, etc. Because Dynamite has Red Sonja, an Army of Darkness. Image has Spawn, and Valiant has Shadow Man. And you can see how these comics, because their fan bases remain pretty much the same level and the same size, and gradually and slowly grows. So they're kind of saying, okay, this is working for them, let's see if it can work for us. And that's a good thing, that's not a bad thing at all. Though Marvel still does Marvel, and it works sometimes, so Incredible Hulk at the moment is absolutely fantastic. So when it comes to wargaming, we see things in Cradle, Mantic, Parabellum Games, all of these other companies that change the entire way these games are played, and it works for all of them, and we see it works for all of them. And Games Workshop's like, yeah, we're not going to go down that route, or they will go, we'll try it, we'll slightly go down that route, but not fully commit to it, even though all these other companies are completely committed to this line, and they are. And we obviously, the big glaring one of it is the free rules, okay? The past couple editions of 40k have had free rules. Same with Age of Sigma. I think they've had free rules since day one, actually, but I'm not sure about. I think they've had free rules from the beginning, and right at the start, they was always like free data sheets. So they kind of tiptoe. They kind of like just dip their toe into it, and they go like, and they hum and ah, and they kind of bail on it at the last time, at 0 hour with massive FAQs and erratas, and they kind of demolish something that everyone else is doing right, and they're like, yeah, we're just not going to do it now. And we see, like with Parabellum Games and their Conquest, everything you need for Conquest, except the physical things, dice, etc., is free. But the rules, the lore, the data sheets, all of that is free. Same with Cradle, the rules, data sheets, etc. Everything is free of charge. All you need is, a tablet or something you can download it on. Yeah, that's absolutely great. Well, some companies kind of do it. Mantic slightly do it, but the rules are free. The data sheets are free for which army you're collecting via their app, but it's also a subscription service, so you can do more armies. They kind of limit the number of armies. Not a good thing, in my opinion. They shouldn't do that. However, it's better than what Games Workshop does. Is you get one army free until the codex drops, and then that's it. You don't get your army anymore for free. You've got to now buy the codex, which again is completely shameful on the behalf of Games Workshop. But seeing that every other company's doing this and giving these free data sheets out, giving these rules out, etc., and Games Workshop like, yeah, we're not going to do that, shows just how far behind they are falling. Now, I know people are going to say, what record profits? They're the biggest company and their profits has risen 5% every year. Now, it's a good job. Nothing else has done that for Games Workshop every year, risen by 5%. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, and then you've got the actual gameplay itself. Now, the gameplay itself for wargaming has evolved for quite a while now. And the weird thing is, the way we play now actually kind of stems from Games Workshop, and that is the turn-by-turn activation. For those who don't know or unaware, this is where you basically use a unit, and then you go through their process, move, shoot, etc., and then your opponent does the same with a unit, where Games Workshop seems to want to stick with the whole entire army sort of thing. Now, the thing about the turn-by-turn is it speeds up games incredibly fast, insanely fast. It makes it really, really fast. And it also makes it far more strategic than anything else as well, because you're not just relying on when you see someone move their entire army and do everything they need, you can start planning what you want to do next, and you're not going to be interrupted. Games Workshop kind of put in the reactions, but most of them are absolutely broken, so it doesn't even work. Whereas, like War Cradle and Parabellum, this just works so well because whereas you move some of your old Dominion, you move your Centurion, and then they literally compete that with a one of the bowmen just to take it out. Squad of bowmen just to take them out, because why not? And you've got to think more clearly and more strategically, because of you don't know how they're going to react and what unit they're going to react with. Whereas it's the whole army, yeah, you might get a nice big turn straight off if the dice are with you, but all of a sudden your entire army can't do anything in return when you're just getting pounded back into dust. And of course, there's also balancing. A lot of other games, OPR especially is good for this one. That's one-page rules. Especially good for this is focusing on balance. Now, it doesn't have to be 100% balanced. Now, honestly, I agree that there needs to be some resemblance of balance, but yes, some armies do have to be stronger than others. However, it needs to be balanced to a point where even the weak army will be able to fight and win against a stronger army, even though it might need more models or whatever. Yet Games Workshop doesn't know, has sort of forgotten how to balance. So we see this quite regularly. As soon as a codex drops, it's going to be broken in one of two ways. It's either going to be broken that it's too powerful, or it's going to be broken that it's just too weak. Take the Codex Custodes, for example. You've got the Custodes, a very strong army, well, meant to be very strong, with a broken Codex, which just makes them unplayable. And not in the good way, but they're so strong. Now, what I've noticed with this and how this tends to work is that when they release a new edition, you will find that most of the rules have already been written and made for the army. This is for second edition onwards, not first editions. Reason being, first editions tend to be when it add new armies, whereas second edition onwards, you've got all the armies already, you just need to write the rules for them. But it's interesting to see that where every other company is balancing, again, not 100% perfect, because why should it be? Because you want some flavour in there as well. But better balancing Games Workshop, because they're not constantly releasing new rules for new armies, or fixing the rules time and time again once you release the rules in the first place. And this is why Games Workshop needs to start focusing on the biggest picture. They need to start focusing and seeing what everyone else is doing and how they can improve their game by looking at what everyone else is doing right, not ignoring everyone else and then wondering what went wrong. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day, and it's nice and sunny out today, and I hope you're having a good time. And I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day. Oh, if you wish to save money on your wargaming course, there's Rating Games. As always, up to 20% off, free delivery after £20, and they have a point system for an extra 1% off. Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs, mangas, toys, plushies, t-shirt, clothing, all the other cool stuff. Talking about clothing and comics, there's my merchandise down below. If you wish to support me personally, everything is done and designed by me. The comic is hand-drawn and written by me and inked by me. I don't do colour because I like the old-fashioned way. I was brought up in the 90s with comics, so especially if you're Britain, you know exactly what I mean. Then there is Skyforge. Never get Skyforge. Good friend of mine. And finally, Patreon because business. Bye bye.